it's Stefan with D-Line. Today we're going to go over a few of the things you want to do with your bike before taking it out on that initial ride of the season. But we're going to be doing it in a small space like your apartment and also using common household items. But remember, this is just to get you started. I'll go over a few of the things that you need in your local bike shop to keep your bike in tip-top shape. Let's go take a look. Okay, I've laid out the items we're going to be using today. Starting on the left, we have paper towels, some surface cleaner, rubbing alcohol, a rag, some scrap paper, a bike pump, an old toothbrush if you have one. I didn't, so I just made this cool paper cutout, and some Q-tips. Okay, so I've got my mighty commuter here all set up in the apartment. First thing I did was clear out the space so I would have a nice area to work with. And the next thing is I'm going to use the paper towels to put underneath the bike like a drop cloth so that when cleaning the frame and the chain, all the soot and grit can fall right on there. And at the end, you just roll it up, toss it away, and you avoid upsetting your roommates and keeping the floor clean. So now you got your drop cloth all set up. The bike's ready to take a closer look at all the components. Okay, so we're going to start off talking about the brakes. And on my bike, I have caliper style rim brakes. And just at first glance, I can tell that there's some misalignment. The right brake pad is just barely touching the rim. And on the left side, there's a big space. And so for one, you could be adding drag to your ride. Nobody wants that. And reducing braking power. So this is an easy adjustment to make. Just grab the fork on whichever side you have more space and just apply enough pressure to pivot the whole assembly until you get what you think is equal spacing on both sides. And what you'll do then is apply the brake and just make sure that the pads are touching the rim at the same time and not pushing the rim on one side or the other. And what you do is repeat the same process on the rear brakes. Okay, so onto the tires. An important thing to look out first is just the overall condition of the rubber. Over time, they'll begin to dry out when you notice that there are cracks. And what you really want to look out for are the big ones. If you see many of them, it's probably time that you replace both tires, front and back. Next is the air pressure. If the bike's been sitting around for 1, 2, 3 months, the air is most likely going to leak out. And it's going to happen right at the valve here. Even if you have that black cap tightly screwed on there, the air is still going to escape. So I don't have a floor pump with me, but I do have my handy hand pump, and I'll use that just for the time being. And this way I have enough air just to get me to the bike shop. Now you don't want to be too aggressive with these because they can break the actual valve, and they'll leave you in a bad spot to replace the tube. Alright, so that should be enough air for now. What I'm going to do is do the rear wheel as well, and that should be just enough to get down to the bike shop and get the appropriate amount of PSI in there. Okay, so we're moving right along to the chain. Now, this is one of the most overlooked, least cared for parts of the bike, but really one of the most important. A well-maintained chain will keep your ride smooth, clean, and noise-free. Now, if your chain is bone dry right now, just forget this video, go to the bike shop, get some chain oil, and get that thing lubed up. But in my case, I have no oil, and my chain's full of grime and grit. So what I'm going to do is use some alcohol and a rag and just clean the top layer. And the reason why I use alcohol is because it's fast drying. So let's take a closer look and I'll show you exactly how to do this. Okay, so I've got my cloth. I'm just going to take a little bit of the alcohol and put it directly on the cloth. Now, the idea is not to soak the chain with alcohol, it's just to brush it, to clean it, and get some of that grit off. So I'll start with the bottom part of the chain. You'll already start to notice that the dirt and everything is going to start falling on the paper towel below, which is a good sign, meaning that you're getting something done. So once I feel like I've got the bottom of the chain I'll wrap the cloth around and just find the right spot, making sure that you can get it all the way around. Now if you don't have a cloth, you can use an old pair of jeans or pants, cut it up, or an old shirt, and if it's really last resort, you can use the scrap paper, but it's not the best method. I wouldn't recommend it because the paper will start to break apart and get in the chain. So if you do have time, the Q-tips are a great way to get in between each link and make sure that you get all of the dirt out. Now this is time consuming, like I said, but it will ensure that you get all of that dirt out. And it's a great way to keep your chain clean. Maybe a winter project. So on the rear cog set, I like to use the end of the rag, cut it off, and then I'll just basically go in between each ring and make sure to get everything out. Now this can sometimes even work better than a brush because the cloth will absorb the dirt and really get everything out of there. So that's a great method. So that's pretty much cleaning the chain. Your chain is probably going to be pretty dry at this point, so you'll want to go down to the shop and get some oil and lube this thing up. So we'll move on to cleaning the frame, and then you'll be ready to get out there. Well, we're on to the last phase of the video, and that's cleaning the frame. We're going to focus on just a few areas of the frame, and that's the front fork, the down tube, the seat tube, the chain stay, and the seat stay. And basically those areas are what come in contact the most with rain and water and dirt and anything that's splashing back up. And so we're going to use our paper towels right underneath the brakes in the front. And I just tuck it underneath the fork like this. And I'll do the same thing on the back. Now if you want to protect the brake pads from getting any sort of solution on them, open up your brakes and just tuck it in beneath the pad and the rim. Now I'm going to use a solution that I've made at home. It's just surface cleaner and water. I like to dilute it so it's not as strong, but another reason I'd like to use a spray bottle for one out of the hose, but also because the bike components were designed for low impact pressure from water. So this is perfect solution. So what I'll do is I'll just don't have to do much. Just make sure to get some good coverage on there. And then I'll take just another piece and just okay, so that was a pretty quick run over on the frame, and it's all dependent on how dirty your frame is, but the next step is we're going to head down to the bike shop and pick up the most essential products that you need to maintain your bike. Okay, so here we are at Somerville Bike Shop in Somerville, Massachusetts. Great local bike shop, and I've got a couple products here that really I would recommend using. The chain lubricant will keep your chain shiny and clean, and the bike pump, really, instead of using that hand pump, will get the perfect PSI in there. So this is really what you should have in your house, and these two combined will really keep your bike in great shape. So hope you liked the video, and it gave you great tips to keep your bike in good shape, and we'll see you again soon.